Another of the beautiful French dolls in the auction was also made by Schmidt of France, and I think this one, right here where I'm showing you, has particular beauty. I think her eyes are more spectacular than you usually will find in a Schmidt doll, which tends sometimes to have a flatter eye with spiral eyes, but this one has a very bulbous, what we call paperweight eyes, and they are really rounded, and if you see it from the side, look at the orb on those eyes. It actually matches the curve of her cheek, and I don't know if that's what gives her this very, very special look, but she, to me, is a very, very stunning doll. And once again, has that sort of maybe kind of looks like the Kestner doll. So I don't know if anyone can ever come up with a connection between the companies. That would be great to know. I would like to point out to you that Schmidt very quickly evolved into making what I call their elongated or pear-shaped face bébé, which was almost like an older looking child. And so it's almost like they might have been influenced by the German dolls at one point, and then he went into more of sort of the French mode, I guess you could call it. This is a very beautiful, beautiful early Schmidt doll. Wonderful costume. I'm going to just show you the hat, which is really quite lovely. Original hat, fitted perfectly to her. Oh, she's very great. You know, someone asked me last night when we were doing Facebook Live, what were my favorite dolls in this auction, and I said, oh, it's really hard to tell. I'm always looking for something different. And then someone posed, well, what about the French dolls? And I said, but they're always different. They can be the same maker, but each doll has a distinctive, unique face. And you will have certain dolls, like you could say, oh, here's 10 Jumeaus. And no, they're not all alike, even if they're from the very same time period, even if they're like the EJs or the early period EJs or anything that you know would have been made within a 2 or 3 year period. They each will still be different, and one doll will just stand there and speak to you. This one would speak to me. If I were at the auction bidding, she would come home with me. I love this doll. Now, there are also some very beautiful early brews, and we've been talking recently in videos that my comment is that the early brews from what I call the brevet period or the breveté period or the circle dot period, to me are extraordinary opportunity at this point. Every collector seems to be going toward the golden age of the brew, which is the brew with a slender torso and a little tiny stuck out tongue, and they're marked Brew Jaune. But this is a first period Jumeau. It's known as the Bébé Breveté. It has no brew markings on the doll, except occasionally to have the paper label. It says Bébé Brevet on her front torso. But the look is unmistakable. And, ladies and gentlemen, splendid eyes. Check them out. They are absolutely stunning. They just pop out. They have that beautiful, realistic spiral threading. It was so difficult to create and to produce. Every one of these things was an extra step that the person that was blowing the glass eyes had to undergo to make them rich and different. So kind of remember all of these things when you're looking at a doll. It's not just one little thing. It's everything put together, all the extra steps. And again, that very beautiful pale complexion. Look at her eyelids, mauve eyeshadow, a sign of one of the earlier dolls, once again, not when they're not the rich rose, but they're almost like a lavender mauve color. That's a good sign of one of the early either Jumeaus or Brews. A very beautiful doll with very beautiful bisque hands as well that the Brews are noted for. So one of my favorites in the auction. There's, I think, like 25, it's probably more like 40 or 50 French dolls in this auction. And I just happened to pick out some that, from one reason or another, are favorites of mine. And again, this beautiful little portrait Jumeau, and why do you think I liked her? Check out the eyes. They are absolutely stunning eyes, once again. And she has, everyone thinks of Jumeau making these very, very elegant silk costumes, but Jumeau also produced some of their bébés in the early period in these very, very simple white dresses. We've had some come in over the years, and the dress is usually quite uniform in how it's made and the style of it. And it has this dainty workmanship on it, and I believe that this is an original Jumeau dress. And she again has a wonderful mohair wig, and I will turn her slightly around so you can see her. See the back of her costume? When I have her around the front now, I can see her little hands, and I'm going to extend them so when she comes back to you, she'll have her hands out to you in a pleading way to take me home, but really I'm just trying to show you her body and the shape of the body. And there she is. She's quite beautiful. And then we have another beautiful brew, the model that is known as the circle dot model. Known as a circle dot because instead of a well, sometimes it will have a brew marking on the back of the head, but it always will have, if it's a circle dot, is it has a little impressed mark in the shape of a circle with a dot in the middle of it. And people always thought this was a logo, but it's not. It is actually the mark made because this model was made to create the bébé têteur, or the nursing brew. And that was a symbol of where the people working in the factory would put the little metal turn screw for the bébé têteur. Well, I also found the doll was so beautiful in itself that they made it simply as a bébé, known as the circle dot brew by collectors, not the way it was marketed by Leon Casimir Brew. Again, with beautiful bisque hands that are so notable and important on the brew. And let me just check here. Yes, look at the bottom of her feet. The signed B shoes, B for brew, of course. Signed brew shoes in a very rare ivory color. It's very unusual to find. And a wonderful early costume. I'm going to turn it around so you can see it all the way around. And when she comes back to you, note her lamb's wool wig, original. And once again, I keep hammering it in, the splendid eyes, the splendid spiral threaded eyes. And speaking of spiral threaded eyes, we have another very lovely Jumeau. She has a beautiful costume that is, I think people have done this and I think it's great. When there are fragments of the original costume still available to the doll, but a portion of it might be completely silk rotted or something, they've been able to try to save it. So we have here an original skirt, and the panel has been replaced over the years. It's not the original panel, but the costume itself is basically original with some corrections. Even has the little pleated skirt ruffle at the bottom. Very beautiful and gorgeous, gorgeous, splendid eyes. Our big girl on the right, one of the rarest of the French dolls to find, show you her wig, which extends way past her hips. I mean, she's a beautiful doll in a good early costume. And this is the model EJA, one of the first signed dolls that Emil Jumeau created, made only in two sizes, in sizes 10 and size 12. A very signature doll, quite literally, is because it's EJA, Emil Jumeau, A probably signifying the first of his signed pieces, and a signature doll because of its beauty and splendor, and I'm sure it was a very, very luxurious doll at the time it was made. It has this very long-faced kind of look. Interestingly, at least to me, we were talking about Schmidt before, there is a model that Schmidt made that is so rare, and it's identical to this EJA. What's the connection? We don't know. So all these mysteries still to find out in the French market. And the last of the ones that I have her lying down back here to show you, I just love this little doll because, again, she's so tiny and so little. And this is the little Brevet Brew in a tiny, tiny size with original body, perfect bisque hands, and that very sweet expression, and what a wonderful dress. The early Brew Brevet has a very, much more of a childlike, sweet face than the splendid doll of the middle of the golden age of Brew. Very, very sweet. And again, I will point out to you, in my opinion, the Bébé Brevet by Brew is a steal these days because people are looking for the doll made 6 years later. This doll would have been made 1878 to 1880, in the golden age of Brew about 1884. So looking for opportunity, want to own a Brew, you can't go wrong, either for the value it will give you or for the beauty. I just think she's lovely. And then two others I want to show you quickly because I want to talk to you a bit again about costume. One other I want to show you. We have a Jumeau on this side, and she has her completely original Jumeau costume. She's from a later period, about 1888. You can tell from the style of the costume. It has had some restoration work done on it, but if you have it, you need to preserve this, keep it out of the sunlight, keep it in a place where the silk will not shred, because it is so valuable to find these original costumes. And look what else it has. The rare armband, Bébé Jumeau in gilt lettering on the armband. When you can find that, just grab it, take it, because it is such a treasure. And even better, she's a beautiful doll. She's got great painting, beautifully, Jumeau during the peak of his age, a perfected painting with beautiful coloring of the lips, very, very wonderful in every way. And then, because I'm always going on about costumes, I wanted to share with you this wonderful costume in a, what would you call it, a peach color, a coral color, you name it. And if I can find it, wherever it is, inside, it might be in the back. At any rate, it has the original label from the Au Nom Bleu Paris doll shop, which is so wonderful to find, because this store was known for their luxurious product and their wonderful toys. They had their own little workshop in the back of the store, where many of the dolls that they sold, they purchased nude from the manufacturers, and they put them in their costumes that they made with their own silk label on them. Let me just look for a minute, because I think you want to see that label. Okay, I see it now. It's at the front of the dress. Okay. And it's a very distinctive style. After a while, you come to learn what one of their dresses might be, and you look inside and look for this label, Au Nom Bleu. And then, I don't know, do you use it on a doll or do you save it? Because many people have begun just simply to be collectors of the good antique doll costumes, and it's a worthy, worthy goal. And finally, I wanted to share with you, because you can't always see these. Let me move a few of these dolls so I can kind of spin them around for you. We can't show them from every angle when we do the catalog, so let me show you now. We have lots of antique doll bonnets, which are just wonderful. Now these two are one lot, so let me just show you. That's the back of the bonnet. You can see the flower detail. You can see the layered weaving on it, the triangular scalloped edging, and here's the inside of that bonnet. And then, I love this. This would have been on an earlier doll, and look at this, like little, would fit around the face, fit right over the head onto the face. But look it's almost like an open weave. It's fully lined inside, so the open weave you can't see their hair when it's on. And then it's decorated with blue bows and silk flowers. This is a fabulous hat. Should be cherished just for itself. I don't even know if it should go on a doll. It's just a work of art. If you have little hat stands, for example, these are beautiful in your display cabinets next to a doll. And then another lot has 4 bonnets in it. Wow. Okay, begins with the largest one. And this is like a white cashmere wool. Very, very delicate. That's the outside with the silk ribbons. And this, I don't know what that's called, but it's like an open weave. I'm sure someone will tell me, so I'm not going to say if it's a crochet or knit, what it is. And then when you look on the inside, you can see that it is fully lined, fitted, and it has the ruching around the edge, and then it has a little ruffle that would frame the face. Very, very special. Then we have a smaller one. This is the back side. And then turning it around, it would be beautiful even on the doll. You don't just see the back side, but you would see the whole frame. When the French made their dolls, they made them for all-around presentation. You could look at the doll front, back, sideways, and the costume would be impeccable. Later on, when the Germans started to try to reproduce the French dolls and produce them at a more economical price, they had to make some cuts necessarily. And so the bonnets you'll find on the German made to look like French dolls will not have this finished look in the back. It might be very pretty where it would show on the front of the face, so it's in the store in the window and you see this beautiful bonnet, but you might not have this decoration on the back. One of the signs of a beautiful French hat will be its complete workmanship all the way around, and this one's great, and also it's a rare size to find that little bonnet. Now, we have another one which is somewhat similar to the other one I showed you, that it would fit right onto the doll in this manner. All right, I just have it kind of held up there. And these bonnets are always great on your dolls that are having bad hair days because they kind of hide a lot of bad hair. But it's made with, notice the braid, it's woven wicker, and then it's done into like a spiral twist. So all of these different kind of weaves that were done in the bonnet were important. And then on the back of it here, you're seeing this kind of adhered flouncy fabric, and then lavishly draped satin ribbon on the top. And then turning it inside, you can see that even the inside is finished. Very, very beautiful bonnet. And finally, another small bonnet. And here we have, it's a wide brimmed, it's woven wicker, and when I turn it around, you'll see how the weave is different from the other ones. So many, I mean, someone could do a study on the kind of weaves. I don't know if there are names for these particular weaves, but here it is, see that? And a petite little bonnet. Go on like maybe a 10-inch doll, 10 or 12-inch doll. Wonderful and rare to find these bonnets in this kind of condition today. Well, let's go on now, because we've been talking about the German dolls and kind of not such a flattering way. Well, I want to go back and talk to you about some German dolls and tell you why that you should talk about them in a very flattering way, because the Germans made some outstanding dolls, and let's see those.